This is Business Strategy 450, Week 6. Welcome back. The agenda for this week consists of the following items. First, I'm going to talk very briefly about the feedback-based course enhancements that we've made. I'm not going to go through everything, but there's a couple of things I want to emphasize. You can read my blog in BStrat 450 for more information on some of the enhancements. This week we're going to go through highlights of corporate level strategy, which is the next element of strategy formulation. Emphasis on the word highlights as part of the feedback that I've received from everyone. I'm going to try to make this session a little bit more efficient and be as brief as possible and really focus on what I consider to be some critical highlights that you should emphasize as you study for the course. And then I'm going to do a conclusion, which will include, among the normal wrap-up items, some suggestions on the periodic chapter assignments, the experiential exercise. That's the third of the periodic chapter assignments. Just give you some suggestions on how to approach it. First of all, I want to thank everybody for your constructive feedback in the survey, the mid-semester evaluation survey. It was very helpful, and I appreciate an incredibly high level of participation. At this point, I'm actually recording this on Wednesday because I'll be traveling over the next few days. We're already at about 85–86% participation, and as you know, in the middle of the week, I was able to already take a lot of the trends which have continued and develop some enhancements, and hopefully what you view as some improvements for the course. If you want more detail on exactly what the feedback was and the steps I'm taking to implement some changes to address the feedback, you should read my February 15th, 2011 blog in BStrat 450 Network that's titled Mid-Semester Evaluation Survey First Round. It does go through a lot of the feedback, and it describes exactly the steps I'm going to be taking with respect to the feedback. But here are a few things, key things that you ought to remember. Again, more detail in the blog, but I just want you to think about some of these things, or at least keep them in mind as you proceed during the semester. First, with respect to Manhattan, beginning this week, week 6, there will be no discussion forums in Manhattan, so you don't have to go there looking for discussion forums. Fundamentally, from this point forward, Manhattan will only be used for emails, submission of assignments, handouts, lecture postings, and team project presentations. And that includes the discussions for the team project presentations. That will be the only time we'll go back into Manhattan for discussions, and it's because each of my two sections of this class has different cases, so the combined discussion forum in BStrat 450 Network wouldn't be appropriate. BStrat 450 Network will now become the course's primary collaboration site for all weekly discussions. You'll find my blog, all the videos, and the discussion forums there. Again, except for the one remaining course video, which is in Cengage now, for the last of the video chapter assignments, and as I just said, the team project discussion. And then Cengage now will contain all of the textbook materials as it does now. There's one remaining chapter case video for periodic chapter assignment number 4, and other than that, you don't need to go there for videos. I've suspended the need for you to use the videos. You're free to use them if you want to, but you're not going to be required to for the course. And so that should make use of Cengage relatively easier. I know there have been a lot of problems with Cengage now and videos locking up and the like, so I'm just trying to make that aspect of things a little bit easier for you. All right, here are the highlights of this week's corporate level strategy discussion. First, I'm going to give a brief introduction. We're going to talk, again, I'm going to try to be as brief as possible on each of these topics, talk about levels and types of diversification within at the corporate level. We're going to talk about reasons for diversification. We're going to talk about diversification and performance of companies. and then I'll give a brief summary for your benefit. First, just a couple of quick comments on the approach I'm taking to the lectures this week. This is my first of the new highlights approach to lectures, which is based again on the feedback from the evaluations, which is, I think a lot of people said, don't go through the entire text, but please try to point out those things that are especially important. So I think overall this presentation should go quicker than previous presentations. Please let me know if it works, if I'm covering the right material or covering enough material. Fortunately, this week's material is suited to highlights. The textbook is pretty straightforward in terms of the way it deals with corporate level strategy, and so I think this will work out well. I can't always guarantee I'll be as brief as I will this week. Next week is mergers and acquisitions, which is the subject that that's my area of expertise, the subject I like to talk about, so I may have some additional thoughts and some practical comments that I might share during that session. But that said, hopefully this session will go reasonably well for you. Before you do anything, you should just make sure that you understand what the book's definition of corporate level strategy. I think it's pretty straightforward. Basically, it defines corporate level strategy as specific actions a firm takes to gain a competitive advantage by selecting and managing a group of different businesses competing in different product markets. And fundamentally, this diversification amongst a group of businesses should add value for the corporation. This value creation is different from business level strategy, which we discussed in week 4, because a business level strategy focuses on just one business competing in a single product market. Value under corporate level strategy, value is created as a result of the sum of the parts rather than having businesses run independently. So the notion is that by being diversified across a range of businesses, your collective value as a company should improve. Here's a working example of corporate level strategy if the definition isn't clear. PepsiCo, prior to its 1997 spin-off of Tricon Global Restaurants Incorporated, had a sort of a tier. First, corporate level strategy was at the PepsiCo level. This was the holding company. PepsiCo had several operating units under it, and so PepsiCo managed strategy across a range of business units, and each of those business units then had its own business level strategy. So the corporate units were soft drink business, the one we know, Pepsi, snack foods, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, KFC. So PepsiCo was diversified across this range of businesses, and basically what corporate level strategy is the management of multiple business level strategies. In each instance, whether it's soft drinks where Pepsi is competing with Coke and other beverage manufacturers, or it's Taco Bell competing with other fast food chains, those are different segments, different markets, and different products. In order to understand the levels and types of diversification, and again, in an effort to be focused on highlights here, I won't go through this in extraordinary detail, but you should look at figure 6.1 on page 160. This slide, or this chart, kind of explains sort of the 3 levels of diversification, from a very low level of diversification, which can be as low as essentially a single business, like the companies we looked at from a business level strategy perspective, to one that has a dominant business. So there could be some small companies, but fundamentally it's in a primary business, to moderate to high levels of diversification where there's multiple businesses, but there's some level of relationship between those businesses. They're either linked directly or constrained by shared technology or distribution, all the way up to the very highly diversified companies which just carry a bunch of unrelated businesses together. You'll see this less and less, but certainly historically there have been those conglomerates that had just about every kind of business that fell under them. The key really is to understand in the sort of the ideal form of diversification, which is at the moderate to high level, is which businesses or the degree to which businesses are related or unrelated really defines how diversified the businesses are.